It is 5:30, and I know that all of you are so excited about being here. So let's go with our roll call first, if we're going to be able to do this. So my understanding is for me to read out and for you guys to say present or absent, okay? I guess you don't have to say if you're absent. Maybe that would be a different. Okay, so I'm Vi Lyles, and I am serving as chair for this time, and I am present. Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners? Anyone? Okay. Town of Davidson?
Rusty Knox, I'm present, and my town manager, Jamie Justice, is online.
Okay, thank you very much for putting that. Please, if there's someone online that you have, please tell us, and that way we can make sure that we've got everybody in the space to be heard. I don't know, the interim CATS executive officer?
I am present.
All right. Town of Cornelius?
Andrew Grant, Town Manager for Cornelius. Mayor Washam is unable to join us tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. And Matthews, Mayor?
John Higdon, Mayor Matthews, present.
All right. Town of Mint Hill?
Mayor Brad Simmons is present, as well as Town Manager Brian Welch.
Thank you very much, Brian. All right, and Town of Pineville?
Mayor David Phillips is present, along with our town manager, Ryan Spitzer.
Okay, thank you. And do we have our, we have our NCDOT representative? Hi, thank you. Tony is present. Let's see, we'll go to, is there someone representing the town of Mooresville?
Yes, ma'am. It's Bill Thunberg, Mooresville.
Hey, Bill,
Present.
good to hear from you. City of Gastonia. City of Monroe. City of Concord. Town of...
Good evening, LJ Weslowski, Transit Director, City of Concord.
Okay, thank you so much for being here today. And then we also have the City of Concord Mayor.
Not present this evening, Mayor.
All right. Town of Indian Trail. Town of Stallings. City of Rock Hill. Mayor of York County. SCDOT Representative. PTAC Co-Chair, Mayor. Here we are. Alyssa, thank you. And PTAC Co-Chair, the County Chair appointee. No, not yet. Okay, thank you very much. The list that I started with Mooresville was the attendance for non-voting members. Are there any members that are on the internet, not the internet, on virtually, that is a member with voting rights? Anyone? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Mayor Lyles, the town of Huntersville is here.
Oh,
Christy Clark and our town manager, Anthony Roberts.
how did I miss that? I just said, hi, Christy. So sorry about that. All right.
Mayor, just for the record,
And you've got to get your tent closer to me, Mike.
I get it, right?
All right, thank you. And so the county manager,
And
Almost,
Lee
right.
is almost here.
and Lee is almost on the way.
Yeah,
Have you been sworn in and all of that yet?
officially June 30th. I was
Okay.
sworn
We'll look forward to that. We want an invite.
in. You will be.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, Mr.
And
Jones has
then
joined.
we have Marcus Jones, the city manager for Charlotte. Okay. Anyone else that I missed? Let me know. I know that Ms. Altman is on her way, but let's go ahead and get started. So we want to have, I would like to ask for a motion to vote to approve the April meeting summary that you have in your document, in your notebook. Anyone?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. We have a second. Thank you very much. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, anyone opposed? I think it does. So now that means that we have our time for our speakers that are coming in before the meeting, or for our meeting. So let's first hear from Garland. Thank you so much. Mr. Green, thank you so
Can you
much
hear
for
me?
coming. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to talk to you today about the Transportation Resolution 2025-03. The bottom line, and I put a packet to you, you can look at it at your leisure. The public wants light rail to Charlotte Airport, Matthews, Davison with the proposed 1% sales tax. Resolution 2025-30 does not fully support this. Resolution 2025-03 needs to be amended to show a firm commitment to light rail from the Charlotte Airport to Matthews, not just a future consideration of light rail to Matthews someday down the road. Mr. Cagle, you're up first. Your public survey showed light rail to Matthews as a very high priority, number 4 out of 10. Your public survey also showed trolley car expansion and light rail to Carolina Place Mall as a much lesser priority. Yet you are putting the expansion to the trolley cars and to Carolina Place Mall ahead of that of Matthews. The data does not support that. Should Bill 948 pass in the legislature, there'll be plenty of money for light rail build out to Charlotte, Matthews, and Davison. That is what the people want. You need to support it, sir. Mayor Knox, you're next. You've been a fierce opponent to light rail to Matthews. Political reality, Trish Cawthorn. She is the sweetheart of Republicans in the North Carolina state legislature. She is the lady that was a Democrat that switched to Republicans to give them the supermajority. She has huge influence. When Dustin Hall was here in Charlotte earlier this year, he said she's going to have a big say-so. You want road money, you want rail to Davison. She wants rail to Matthews. Sir, you need to think of tit for tat. You need to consider getting on and supporting light rail to Matthews. And lastly, Mayor Lyles. Krista Bakari recently filled a seat in the Charlotte City Council. It was a split vote. All the key Republicans, I'll name them, Phil Berger, Destin Hall, Vicki Sawyer, Ms. Cawthorn, they supported Krista, but you voted against her. Do you not think that's going to be noticed? Anyway, the buck stops with you. You're the leader of the pack. Let's avoid an $80 million train wreck in our own backyard. I'm asking you, too, to get on board with the light rail going to Matthews.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Your 3 minutes are up. Appreciate all of your remarks, and I think we all got a copy of them today
Yes.
earlier.
One last thing, leading into the meeting, and it'll take 30 seconds or less to tell you. I put a proposed amendment in your packet. Okay. Mayor Higdon's going to talk about it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Our next speaker is Evan Schulkoltis. Thank you. I'm trying my very best. I grew up in the South, okay? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Members of the MTC Board, it has come to my attention that on May 5th, 2025, during the budget presentation by the City Manager to the City Council, a discussion came up regarding the allocation of road budget funds pending the passage of the 1-cent sales tax. In this discussion, it was suggested that should the sales tax pass, the funding for roads currently in the general city budget could be reallocated to other areas and the cost of road maintenance, improvements, and expansions paid for with funds from the pending sales tax. While the $63 million budgeted for roads in 2026 may seem paltry compared to the $19.4 billion in income expected from the sales tax over a 30-year period, this adds up. Assuming road spending stays flat, the total cost over the same 30-year period would total $3.37 billion at an average of 3.5% industrial inflation rate and $4.39 billion at a higher 5% rate. Presently, 40% of that estimated $19.4 billion in revenue is allocated to roads, but this allocation is for infrastructure improvements considered part of roads that supports non-car transit options, such as protected bike lanes, sidewalks, and bus stations, and other road improvements. If the road funding from the general budget is moved to the sales tax, then the money necessary for bus infrastructure would have to be sourced from the 20% allocated directly to buses, crippling the expansion of our fixed bus service lines. This is on top of the fact our plan for fixed route service is already hampered in the transit plan by an overemphasis on the expansion of microtransit, a service which is even costlier and serves fewer people than fixed service bus routes. This is not to mention the impact it will have on pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. I therefore ask the MTC Board to act in collaboration with city or state government to prevent the resourcing of funds for car-centered infrastructure from the city budget to the sales tax. Thank you, and I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. I think we can help you with a little bit more information. If we can get it to you tomorrow, I think I have your name, and we'll give you some information about your remarks.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am.
And I'm really glad that you are paying enough attention so that we can try to get things right. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, our next speaker is David Thomas. Mr. Thomas? Is Mr. Thomas available? All right, so since this, I think this close, is there anyone?
There's no more speakers.
There's no more speakers identified. So thank you for those that came. Feel free to stay as long as you'd like. Whether it's good or bad, it's going to be around for a long time. So thank you very much. All right, so our next item on our agenda is to hear from Alyssa Caldwell, who is the co-chair of the PTAC, and to provide her monthly report to us.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor Lyles and board members of the Metropolitan Transit Commission. My name is Alyssa Calderhead, co-chair of the Public Transit Advisory Committee. So thank you for the opportunity tonight to provide an overview of the report found in your binder. Our May PTAC meeting began with reaffirmation of the committee's grounding purpose and mission. We revisited the importance of building upon the region's extensive public engagement and planning work to date, while maintaining a focus on the equity and safety in our collective mobility vision. Members were reminded of their critical role in listening carefully, reviewing thoroughly, asking questions, and offering thoughtful recommendations to this body on behalf of the residents we serve across the city of Charlotte and its neighboring towns. The committee received a comprehensive update from Jason Lawrence, Chief Planning Officer, outlining the upcoming July 7th service changes. These changes represent a meaningful step forward in the evolution of a more adaptive and responsive transit model. Among the most significant adjustments are the planned transition away from the Village Rider routes and the Davidson Shuttle, with microtransit services stepping in to fill those gaps. Additionally, there will be operational refinements at the Charlotte Transportation Center and schedule changes aimed at boosting reliability. So these proposals were supported by a robust Title VI equity analysis and extensive public engagement, which confirmed that the changes align with rider needs and uphold our shared values. So while the committee voiced overall support for the transition, there was a strong emphasis on the necessity of clear rider education, transparent public messaging, and close attention to how these changes impact communities historically dependent on fixed route service. Kelly Goforth, Chief Development Officer, presented the latest developments in the transit system plan, including results from 2 major rounds of public engagement. The findings demonstrated overwhelming public support for expanding transit services in Mecklenburg County, with a clear majority of participants expressing a need for more options and alignment with the goals set forth in the draft plan. At the April 30th MTC meeting, staff formally recommended scenario 1 for adoption. That scenario strikes a deliberate balance between ambition and fiscal responsibility. It includes enhancements through the Better Bus program, aiming to significantly improve service frequency, invest in infrastructure, operator support, and passenger experience. So throughout the discussion, the importance of the bus network was consistently affirmed as the foundation of our transit system and a key to transformational progress. So the committee held meaningful dialogue on specific components of the system, including a few questions raised by Jeffrey Parker of the town of Matthews regarding the Gold Line streetcar. Parker noted the limited public feedback recently collected on the line and inquired about possible redundancy with the future Silver Line. In response, CAT staff explained that planning evaluations are still underway to improve efficiency and speed on the Gold Line, including potential changes to stop spacing, signal prioritization, and the exploration of on-demand stop activation to minimize delays. So these considerations are part of an ongoing effort to optimize performance within the broader strategic and financial framework of the system. So as the transit system plan progresses towards adoption, PTAC recognizes that successful implementation will depend on transparency, adaptability with the public. So the committee remains committed to the principles that have really guided our work: equity and service delivery, improved frequency and reliability, meaningful public involvement, and smart investment in infrastructure. And we found that the Better Bus framework and the vision set forth in scenario 1 offer a strong and actionable path forward. And then lastly, a synopsis of the current sales tax legislation was deferred due to time constraints and is expected to be addressed in our next committee meeting on June 11th. So on behalf of PTAC, we appreciate the continued collaboration with MTC, and at this time, I welcome any questions or comments that you have regarding this report.
Well, first, thank you for the work that you're doing and the committee is doing with you. And so with that, I'll open it up for questions. Any questions for Alyssa Calderhead, who is the co-chair of the PTAC? Any questions? Comments? All right. Hearing none, you're doing a great job then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So next, we're going to hear from Brent Cagle for the CEO report.
Yes, Mayor Lyles. Good evening, members of the MTC. So I will try to keep my report brief this evening. A couple things to note. The FTA will be beginning their triennial review of CATs. This is the normal scheduled triennial review. It comes every 3 years, and it's time for a new triennial review. They will be on site next week conducting their on-site evaluations, and then they will follow up with us with any comments associated with the review. As we understand those comments and are able to respond to them, we will also bring forward results of the triennial review to this body, to the MTC. And second individual pulled a gun and gunfire ensued. A third individual was struck. Our security and CMPD immediately responded and were able to identify the two folks involved in this, and CMPD is continuing the investigation into this incident. I will say, when it comes to the CTC, while we're talking about this incident, another item that you all received a report on or an update on as MTC members this month, we have served notice to the concessionaires, the food and beverage vendors, and the one concession store, and there's another sundry store, terminating their leases. This was all outlined in their leases, and we were exercising our right to terminate those leases. Those leases will terminate roughly over the next 90 days. The concessionaires are entitled to relocation benefits as specified by the FTA, so we will also be working with them to arrange their relocation benefit as they're entitled to those. The larger reason behind that is, as we think about safety and security at CTC, along with fare evasion, safety and security at CTC are, those are our top two security, safety priorities as we think about moving forward. By removing the concessionaires, it will give us the ability to better enforce the entirety of the inside of the transit center as what we call a fare zone. If you've ever used the Blue Line and you've noted that literally on every Blue Line platform, there's a red line that says fare zone. The reason that's there is once it's there, our safety and security personnel have the ability to ask for proof of fare. I.e., if you are not a ticketed passenger, you should not be just sitting at the facility or utilizing the facility for other purposes. So by being able to mark the fare zone and ensure that the transit center is being utilized by transit passengers, we're better able to maintain security within the facility. The last thing I will say on the transit center is in June, we would like to bring forward an overall plan with, to provide to you details on our plan to make renovations and rehabilitation to the transit center beyond just the enforcement of the fare zone. That is an important first step, but it is only a first step, and so we plan to do that with this body in June. With that, I'll move on to our safety summary. The bus operations division.
May I ask you a question before you go on to the next part? Is that okay, Madam?
Yes, sure.
Oh, thank you so much. What is the difference between the triennial review of the FTA and the off-cycle review? Like, what will they look at that's similar or different?
They are very, very similar. You may recall the FTA came in and did the off-cycle reviews at this body's request, and they are very, very similar. The triennial review in those two elements, right? So the off-cycle reviews were focused on financial oversight and maintenance. The triennial review looks at both of those areas, and so it's very similar, but it also looks at other areas like human resources and policies associated with that. So those two areas are very, very similar. The triennial is much more comprehensive in the scope of everything it looks at.
So the big buckets being financial and maintenance, but like is just safety and like all of that's wrapped into maintenance, I presume?
Yeah, so as part of the triennial review, NCDOT SSO, which is state safety oversight, is also part of our triennial review. And at the same time, NCDOT SSO will also be working with the FTA for their triennial review.
And how long does that process last?
It should take, well, the on-site review should take a week or two. It shouldn't be that long for the report, but the FTA has not given us a time frame for when they will be giving us the report. As soon as I know that, I can share that with the FTA, with the MTC.
Okay, thank you. And I'm really excited to hear about the plans you'll be bringing forward in June for the rehabilitation of the exterior of the CTC as it currently is. So I await that. And if I may just take a tiny moment of personal privilege to recognize my former colleague, County Commissioner at Large, Wilhelmina Rimbert. So happy to see you here. And I was listening to the mayor as I was rolling up. And thank you for recognizing Michael Bryant. But it is incumbent upon me, and I do want to take a moment just to formally introduce him to you. Please give him a very warm welcome as our incoming county manager. We are so thrilled. We feel so lucky. He is a long-term county public servant and deputy county manager with a very deep book of experience. And, our managers are so essential to the work we do here at the MTC. And although he has big shoes to fill, we have the highest confidence in him. And just wanted to extend an invitation to all of you to his swearing in on June 30th here in this room, beginning at 10 a.m. So we would love to see you. And thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All right, so let's go back to our.
So for the bus operations division, there were 2 reportable incidents in April, one of which was a passenger vehicle attempted to make a U-turn at Beatties Ford and Slater Roads. They struck a bus. The bus was pushed off the road and struck 2 utility poles and a small tree. 5 passengers and the operator were transported by medic to the hospital, all with non-life-threatening injuries. In effect, car made a U-turn in front of the bus. The bus operator did their best to avoid the accident, and in so doing, swerved off the road and sideswiped a tree and a couple poles. Secondly, a bus was pulling away from a transit stop when the left side mirror made contact with a passing box truck. Only cosmetic damage was reported. However, 2 passengers did request medic for minor injuries. There were no reportable incidents in April for STS, and in the rail division, there was 1 reportable incident. A passenger vehicle made contact with a Gold Line streetcar at Trade and Church, causing minor cosmetic damage to the vehicle, to the Gold Line vehicle. No injuries reported, and the streetcar was able to continue in service. On-time performance in April was right around where it has been at 81.9% of bus services were on time, 16.1% were late, and 2% were early. Missed trips continue to track below 1%. And on page 25, you will note the 2 charts showing the the look back of OTP, on-time performance, and missed trips as requested at one of our earlier meetings. And then local bus ridership experienced a minor decline compared to April of 2024. However, year-to-date bus ridership for fiscal year 25 is 4% higher than fiscal year 2024. Local and regional express routes saw an increase in ridership, up 4.1% on local express routes and 5.6% on regional express routes. Our neighborhood circulator saw an increase of 3.7%, and rail ridership saw a decrease in ridership on the blue line and an increase in ridership on the Gold Line. Gold Line was up again 18.3%. I think this might be the 4th or 5th month in a row of double-digit ridership increases on the Gold Line. The note on the blue line is it was down 2%, but that is attributable to the rail shutdown for maintenance, where every year, twice a year, we shut down the rail line and we perform maintenance on the rail line. And so that's what attributed to that decline in the blue line. Microtransit continues to increase ridership, and we are seeing an average weekday boardings of nearing 100 passengers per day. I'm also happy to announce we hit our 5,000th rider. I apologize if I said that last month. I don't think I did, so I want to make sure to say it. In an ironic twist, although I think it's a great story, our first rider of microtransit was a school teacher going to work. Our 5,000th rider of microtransit was a school teacher going to work. Not the same school teacher, but also going to work.
You gotta find these people.
Well, the word is out in the northern school districts or schools that microtransit is great. We will also be engaging in more community outreach for the riders of the Village Rider to help make their transition from the Village Rider over into microtransit smooth and easy, and we're certain that when they see the value of microtransit and the convenience of it, they will be hooked just like all the other riders who are trying it. With that, I will skip to page 27, our CAT sales tax report. I will note our monthly sales tax receipts are in through February of 2025. We have seen less than anticipated, on a monthly basis, less than anticipated actual receipts from our budget. And we do believe that there will be, at year end, there will be less than anticipated total receipts from our budget. However, the good news is in our mid-year budget adjustments, we have already accounted for that. And so this should not present any issues associated with revenues and expenditures, but certainly is something we want to continue watching as sales tax receipts have remained softer than anticipated over the last few months.
Okay. You have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Cagle, on page 21, under Gold Line Safety Performance Measures for reportable events, it looks like there's a spike in the month of April. The rate seems to be quite a bit larger than previous months. Can you tell me what that is? It's the upper left graph.
In April. Oh, so that reportable collisions is one. It is a spike in that the previous month was 0. But on the graph, the actual number is there was 1 reportable collision in April compared to 0 in January, February, and March.
Okay, I see. So that's not terrible. And then on the CAT's sales tax report, and upper left corner, where it says February receipts were $439,000 above budget target for the month. And then the next line says February 25 receipts were negative $521,000 below forecast for the month. I just don't understand what this is telling us.
I apologize. That does absolutely make no sense at first read. So what that's saying is the receipts are below our annual forecast that we set last year coming into this year's budget. But in the mid-year, when we made the adjustments, seeing that receipts were softening, they're actually above where we adjusted, where we expected them to be. So they're above our mid-year forecast, but they are below our beginning of year forecast. And I apologize. I will make sure that information like that is much more clearly stated in the future.
Thank you.
Yes. That is all of my report.
Okay. Well, thank you for that report. Thank you for the clarifications that we had. And I now would like to address our first action item. We'll start with the transit system plan, and I want to recognize again Mr. Cagle to introduce the item.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Goforth, our Chief Development Officer, is here. Again, provided the recommendation and the presentation last month. We have just a few reminder slides as we go through this, and then we will move straight into the recommendation. Certainly, if there are other questions associated with last month's presentation, we're happy to answer those, but we wanted to provide a little bit of a refresher. This is not really new information. It's just a bit of a refresher from last month.
Thank you, Ms. Goforth.
Thank you. So tonight, we've reached the last step in the process to update the transit system plan. And at the May meeting, if you recall, we presented the results of the public engagement process, the couple of rounds that we've had over the past several months, and the staff recommendations for the transit system plan update. And as Mr. Cagle mentioned, I'll briefly review those recommendations and the MTC action item that's proposed for tonight's action. So the staff recommendation for the financially constrained transit system plan included prioritizing the Better Bus program. This includes a commitment to the full program of frequency improvements, service expansion, and microtransit within the first 5 years. The second part of the recommendation was a phased implementation of the rapid transit corridors. This includes the Red Line commuter rail from Charlotte Gateway Station to Mount Warren, the Silver Line light rail from Airport to Coliseum Ovens, the Gold Line streetcar extension from Rosa Parks Place to Eastland, the Blue Line extension from I-45 South Boulevard to Carolina Place in Pineville, and future extensions of light rail for the Silver Line west to I-45 and east to Matthews, and the Blue Line to Ballantyne would be considered as funding allows, with enhanced bus service implemented in the interim. And the third recommendation was to study and evaluate options to further extend light rail for the Silver Line East, including other funding opportunities. So there are two main pieces to the proposed transit system plan. One is the Better Bus Plan, and the other is the Rapid Transit Corridor System Plan. The recommendation for the Better Bus Plan includes, as I mentioned, quick implementation of service expansion with a 50% increase in service within the first 5 years. It includes improving our 15 highest ridership routes to 15-minute frequency and 30-minute frequency for all other routes. In addition, the Better Bus program includes full implementation of the microtransit program across the county, as well as priority bus corridor improvements. The program also would include bus stop improvements for our 2,000 bus stops, community transit centers, as well as improvements to the Charlotte Transportation Center and the Charlotte Gateway Station bus facility. The second part of the transit system plan is the Rapid Transit Corridor System Plan, and that includes improvements on the Red Line, Silver Line, Gold Line, and Blue Line. This map shows both the full alignment for the locally preferred alternative, as well as the minimum operable segment for the Silver Line and the Blue Line extension. And so for those two parts of the adopted plan, the minimum operating segment would be included in the financially constrained plan. Finally, the recommended implementation strategy for the fiscally constrained plan includes short, midterm, and long-term stages. The immediate focus would be on implementing the Better Bus program, and then we would also implement the Red Line commuter rail service as the first priority in the Rapid Transit Plan, as well as advance the Silver Line. In the midterm, service would begin on the Silver Line, Gold Line extension, and Blue Line extension. And finally, in the long term, both the Better Bus program, as well as the Silver Line and Blue Line, would be extended as financial capacity allows. So in your packet, you have the recommended action item and resolution for adoption. I'll just go quickly through each action item included in the resolution. The first one is adopting the transit system plan, including the Better Bus Plan and the Rapid Transit Corridor System Plan. The maps that I just reviewed are included in your package, and those define the locally preferred alternatives for each of the corridors. Item B is approving the fiscally constrained implementation plan for the transit system plan, and those include the elements that I reviewed previously and are listed here. Item C is to request that the MPO, the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, include those corridor projects that were identified in the financially constrained transit system plan in the MPO's 2055 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And this step is needed in order for us to be eligible to receive federal funds for the project and advance the environmental process. Item D is to direct staff to study and evaluate options to extend light rail for Silver Line East, including other funding opportunities. Item E is direct staff to advance our projects, including planning for the Better Bus implementation and continuing studies on the Red Line, Silver Line, and Gold Line. And finally, item F is to direct staff to identify measures to preserve the ability to extend light rail in the future and protect the adopted alignment and station locations for the future rapid transit projects. That concludes the item. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or discussions for staff? Mr. Trustees from Davison.
Thank you. The one thing that I see here that I don't want to pass by in the plan is that there's no provision for microtransit that I see. And I'm concerned about that with the success that we've got thus far, where, you know, we're still at the pilot stage and we're taking 100 cars a day off the road just at the north end. So I just, where does that fall in the verbiage that I'm reading? I don't see microtransit, so.
Yes, sir. That is a great question. Based on the success of microtransit, we believe that that will be mirrored across. So Better Bus includes the implementation of 19 microtransit zones spanning across the county throughout the entire service region, and that is inherent or part of Better Bus. It is also a very important part of Better Bus, and as we've said before, we believe Better Bus and microtransit is absolutely fundamental and key to the transit system plan.
And in item B, I, the first bullet, frequency improvement, service expansion, and microtransit within the first 5 years.
Remind.
Thank you.
Read the subcategories. Thank you.
And do you have anything else, Mr. Noakes?
No, I don't, because bus stop enhancements were something that was key too, and that's already outlined, so.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mayor, did someone else have their hands over here? Okay, so Ms. Altman, please.
Thank you, thank you. I want to say that I was talking to someone today who said, I'm not sure that I'm interested in a bus, more of a bus program. And, what I think it's so important for the community to understand is that this bus program is not the one you know. This bus program will expand service to 450,000 residents across the county. And I don't know if you can pull up the map that shows the permeation of where those routes will be, but it really is pretty amazing compared to what we have now. We need like a before and after so people can get a sense of the difference, because I think we have like 2 main fixed routes that have a lot of frequency, and that's pretty much it. And so this is really, this is just a tremendous difference. And, another thing that I find really exciting about this is that although the rail projects get a lot of attention, they are, 5, 10, 15 years out in terms of implementation under a best case scenario, whereas this significantly different game-changing bus service can begin to be implemented virtually. I don't want to say overnight, because nothing happens overnight, but it really is just an entirely different kind of service that we can begin to deliver that would give immediate relief to residents who don't have, the ability to get from point A to point B, and those who want to get out of their cars. So I find that really exciting. And so that was what I wanted to say. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Altman. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Mayor Higdon.
I don't have a question for staff, but I'd like to read a statement. I do not support the proposed transit system plan for several reasons. The vision for Matthews has long been one of thoughtful planning and strategic growth, underpinned by investments that position our town as a thriving hub within the county. From fostering a robust business environment to nurturing community spaces and accessible transportation options, the town's guiding principles have always been centered on enhancing connectivity and our quality of life. Yet the current direction of this transit plan appears to challenge these foundational priorities. First and foremost, and despite my multiple pleadings to this MTC for over a year now, there has been absolutely zero attempts made to compromise with Matthews in any way whatsoever on the plan. The MTC has remained steadfast in its support of a severely flawed funding model, a plan that was drawn up by Charlotte business leaders and championed by most town managers, not mine. And then this MTC, before even basic costs were known, in a classic case of shoot, ready, aim. Under this plan, Matthews Light Rail passengers will need to travel 7 miles outside the town to access the closest station. This plan disregards Matthews' 30-plus years of land use planning for light rail service to our vibrant downtown restaurants and businesses, the Novant Medical Center, our Sportsplex, Matthews Athletic Recreational Association Complex, our 15 parks, our celebrated farmers market, CPC Levine campus, and soon-to-be-built Hendrick Advanced Manufacturing Campus and the Discovery Place Kids Museum. Despite our town representing only a small portion of the county's population, Matthews welcomes millions of visitors to our town each year. This current transit plan also nonchalantly dismisses the $40+ million already spent on Silver Line East design and the thousands of hours stakeholders spent determining its preferred route and station locations. To paraphrase former Illinois Senator Everett Dirksen, $1 million here, $1 million there, pretty soon you're talking about some real money. I'm sure our taxpayers are thrilled that they have potentially paid for a design that will never be realized. The flawed transit survey offered only 4 limited choices. For Matthews residents, this survey was akin to asking, which one of your limbs do you prefer to have severed? While I sincerely do applaud the overall effort in gathering public input, none of the above options should have been offered, and I suspect it would have been a popular choice. Still, sentiments to build the Silver Line to Matthews were very popular and among the most popular comments. The plan does not consider potential ridership numbers as a determining factor in what routes will be funded. Or if this data was gathered, it wasn't shared with this group or the public. The plan, for the most part, delivers light rail to our wealthiest communities and tells the blue-collar working class to go take the bus. This seems like a strange position to take when so many in this room repeatedly talk about the importance of equity. Speaking of buses, I must comment on the much ballyhooed BRT, or bus rapid transit, that was proffered to Matthews in the early days of the plan, but is now widely viewed as ineffective. What wasn't good for Matthews, I am happy to see you now agree, isn't good for the rest of the county either. This transit plan allocates quite a bit of the tax intake on the Better Bus initiative. As I have stated previously, and despite severely declining ridership from a decade ago, Better Bus may be needed, but taking such a big chunk from a transit tax that was initially envisioned as an avenue to deliver light rail to Mecklenburg County feels like bait and switch. This plan also specifically calls for rail and the Mount Morn station to be built in Iredell County. Everyone in Mecklenburg County should be outraged that this plan neglects to bring rail to East Charlotte or Matthews, and yet delivers it to another county. I do not wish to pay the highest local sales tax in North Carolina and one of the highest in the United States for that outcome, and I suspect I am not alone. This plan also delivers a rail line that will terminate nearly a mile from the Charlotte Douglas Airport. The airport says it has no plans to design or fund a mile-long people mover. Could it be the airport prefers travelers to drive to the airport and pay for parking to fund one of their major revenue streams? This plan is ill-conceived and makes no sense. When asked during our last MTC meeting, CEO Cagle admitted that there is zero funding for any future extension of the Silver Line into East Charlotte or Matthews in this transit plan. Zero. Our constituents heard that message loud and clear. And finally, when I was first elected Matthews mayor in 2019, I was happy to see Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles lead an initiative to have Mecklenburg County mayors meet periodically to share lunch and collaborate on issues. There was a genuine feeling of esprit de corps then, and all for one and one for all. Sadly, that feeling has disappeared. This MTC has turned its back on Matthews and has made no effort to make any adjustments to a plan that definitely creates winners and losers, and that is unfortunate, and that's why I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Higdon. So Now I'm going to ask for a motion and a second for the adoption of Resolution 2025-03, CATS Transit System Plan, including a fiscally constrained implementation plan for the Better Bus Program and the Red Line, Silver Line, and Gold Line Extension and Blue Line Extension projects. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second and a motion. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Anyone in opposition, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you to each and every one of the folks that touched this project. You know, you think about what we were up against and look at where we are today, that we're standing up for the adoption of a unified transit system plan. This is an important step to fulfilling our shared vision for the future of mobility in Mecklenburg County. The future of our transit system is about connecting communities and creating economic opportunity and helping everyone who lives in our community to have a better quality of life. Sometimes we can kind of think about just all of the things that we're doing, but I think that the most important thing is that we have to look at the growth that we have in this community, the economic opportunities and new jobs that all of this can create, and the safety that we can have because of this. I know it is a terribly long time since we've all had the ability to start thinking about this, but I believe at the end of the day, we will figure this out in a way that makes sure that every person that's inside Mecklenburg County feels like that they've gained something as a result of the 1-cent sales tax. It's absolutely essential for us to bring forward all of the people that we know that will be asked to support this effort and this program. And so with that, we have to commission ourselves to begin to think about it right now, to begin to think about what's going to be better and different and make sure that people understand it. And so with that, I'm really grateful to be a colleague of all of these mayors and all of these managers, even though I'm not a manager anymore. I used to be one, so sometimes I get to do that. But I want to say to every one of you that it's made a tremendous difference in the work that we've done, and I am grateful for all of that. So with that, any other questions or comments to be made? All right. So we are going to continue to move on, and our next action item is the fare policy.
Yes, Mayor, Ms. Prezzuti will.
It's always doing the fare policy, right?
She's the fare policy
She's the
expert.
Fare policy.
Yay for me. Well, good evening, members of the MTC. I'm Elizabeth Prezzuti, Chief Administrative Officer here at CATS. The action before you tonight is an update to the fare policy, otherwise known as MTC 02. In your packet, you have a redlined and clean copy of the policy. The proposed policy update reflects changes that are needed based on current service delivery and to help us streamline and move forward with different projects and initiatives. These include an update to the van pool language to reflect that CAT's subsidized flat monthly rate would be applied based on the van size and number of participants and set by a contracted provider. That the microtransit service, defining that within the policy as a revenue generating service, and that fares will be equivalent to that of the local bus fare. A section was added for fare adjustments and promotions, stating CATS reserves the right to adjust pricing of passes to ensure accessibility, promote engagement, or respond to economic or operational circumstances. And then lastly, that the All Access Pass program be amended to include nonprofits at the same annual rate as accredited colleges and universities at $50 per year. And then additionally, for-profit business entities have been incorporated and are subject to an annual rate of $100 per participant. As a side note, we are currently concluding our fare policy study, and once those recommendations are finalized, CAS will be bringing those back to the MTC for discussion and consideration, and we will do a more comprehensive update to the fare policy as a whole. So the changes, again, the changes being requested tonight are reflective of the current operational needs.
So are there any questions for Ms. Prasuti? I'm sorry.
You're good.
Elizabeth Prasuti. Any questions? Ms. Altman?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes.
thank you. So on sub 5, it looks like we are returning some approval authority from the MTC, investing it in the manager. Can you just walk us through what that change does?
Can you, which one, is that the All Access Pass Agreement?
Yes. Yes, in a nutshell.
Yes, the All Access
All right,
Pass
yep.
Agreement.
In a nutshell, what that does is, you'll recall, we have an agreement with UNC Charlotte, and we have also seen interest from other nonprofits. So it doesn't give me the authority to change that rate, $50 per participant, per organization, but it gives us the ability to execute those agreements individually without bringing each one individually to this body. So it sets the rules for those rates, and then allows us to execute those as we have nonprofits or educational institutions that are interested in participating in the program.
Right, and so there's the nonprofit rate and the private sector rate. Is there or should there be a category for other governmental entities like CMS, the county, the towns to promote just consistency, transparency, and buy-in potentially?
They were, they were intended to fall in that nonprofit university space. Or I guess that's how we had thought about them. We missed putting in government in the language, and so we can work to do that on a future update. And I guess we can amend to include that as part of the action for approval.
Well, what I'm hearing from the mayor is that already the city participates under the nonprofit rate, and so now we all know that all of us can get in under the nonprofit rate as a governmental entity.
Yeah.
And
if we can, as we deploy it, if that's okay, we can add that as governmental entities in there for clarification as part of the approval.
Yeah, that'd be good. Obviously, I have an interest in keeping the cost as low as possible. On the other hand, I want to be sure that we can, fund our operations appropriately. So how do you assess the fare relative to similarly sized organizations and counties and so forth?
In terms of the
Price.
the pricing?
Yeah.
So as part of the FAIR study, we did a lot of peer analysis and looking at different transit systems and how they approach pricing it. And so we actually pulled from those recommendations to apply that today. And $50 for nonprofits and government and educational is on par, maybe a little lower than what we see with some other transit systems, but the $100 for business is definitely in line with other transit agencies and how they price it.
How about the daily fare?
The $2.20. We are, I would have, probably 6 months ago, I would have said we were a little bit on the high side, but we are seeing transit systems, given some of the fiscal challenges other transit systems are facing, that they are, most are coming up to that $2.20, $2.25, or exceeding that price on a per trip basis. So we'll be looking at that as part of the overall recommendations for the larger update and kind of how we move forward, and thinking about kind of how we apply fare increases in the future and go about that.
I'm troubled that streetcar is free. I mean, at this point, it seems like we should be recovered and implementing on that.
Yeah, we do anticipate adding the standard fare to streetcar in the future as part of the larger adjustments to sort of fare policy in general. What we didn't want to do was implement the fare only to change it in a few months as we do that. So as we make the recommendations on sort of, in general, the approach to fares, we would anticipate implementing the fare on the Gold Line. I will say, as Ms. Prizzuti said, it has been a while since we raised fares, a long while since we raised fares. We do need to start thinking about being consistent with raising fares. The other side of that is it's also been a while since we've looked at our fare policy and what constitutes a discount fare. And right now, our fare policy designates discount fares for older folks and younger folks. There's a lot in between there, need, veterans, other kinds of factors. And so as we think about fare increases, we're also thinking about it related to all of the fare policy, and we wanted to make a consistent and comprehensive recommendation on the fare policy.
I thought that's what this was.
No, so what this does is clean up language in the existing fare policy for programs that we've already done, like the All Access Pass. So it's really just codifying. So right now, if someone wants an All Access Pass, every single agreement comes before the MTC as sort of a fresh decision, even if it's following the same standard that we've applied to every other All Access Pass program in the past. And so, because it's not addressed in the fare policy, and so what this does is enables us to do the same things we've been doing as a matter of policy. This is a much smaller cleanup to the existing policy than the next step, which will be really a much larger endeavor.
And when does that happen?
So we hope to have the recommendations wrapped up in the next few months. I think the question is how do we, is really working through kind of what implementation looks like, and also doing the appropriate Title VI analysis and everything to as part of that implementation analysis. So well, I think we'll be able to bring forth probably after your summer hiatus in the fall, the recommendations, and then also a proposed implementation plan associated for those.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? So if there are no further questions or discussion, may I have a motion and a second to approve the item?
So moved.
So moved. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, thank you very much. We'll go to our last item, I believe, which is the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transport. I tell you guys. Okay. Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan, and Jason Lawrence is going to be able to address this.
As soon as he makes an acronym out of it.
It would be a bit of a mouthful of an acronym, too. So thank you, Madam Chair, members of the MTC. I'm Jason Lawrence, Chief Planning Officer with CATS. And do a presentation tonight. You do have a healthy attachment in your package of the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Plan. This is an off-cycle adjustment to this effort. This is typically done for 4 years. The last time we did it was in 2022. We are making this adjustment today because of a change to the urbanized boundary that typically lags the census by a number of years. And the change to the urbanized boundary for this iteration from the 2020 census is portions of Iredell County and portions of Rock Hill area, Fort Mill area came out of the Charlotte urbanized area. So we took this opportunity to update the plan, re-engage with the community around this plan. And the purpose of this plan is to support funding coming out of the 5310 program that we are the designated recipient for from CRTPO. And it's required under the Federal Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities section. and it provides opportunities for funding for areas of older adults and individuals with disabilities. And we lead a call each year for vendors and transit agencies that provide those services. And as long as they're in this plan, they can apply for this application of services. And so in front of you tonight, we have this plan for adoption, and we will do a call later this year, and look forward to any questions that you may have about the plan.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, so is there a motion and a second to approve the item?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Hearing any further, having heard no further discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? That's all passes. And so thank you very much there. So I believe that I can ask now if there's any informational items, additional, anything?
Yes, Mayor, there is one informational item. It's very brief. Next month's meeting, we will also be bringing out some of our new vehicles. They will be parked out here in the circle in front of CMGC before the meeting. So we would invite all of the MTC, if you're able, to come out a little bit early and come down and see some of the new vehicles that we have added to the fleet over the last couple years.
Any other questions or comments or things to note? All right, with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. All right, enjoy your evening. Thank you.